a brief introduction for these two cities. The United States of America, or also known as United States or US, is a country of 50 states covering a vast swath of North America, with Alaska in the northwest and Hawaii extending the nation's presence into Pacific Ocean. Major Atlantic coast cities are New York, a global finance and culture center, and capital Washington, D.C. Midwestern metropolis Chicago is known for influential architecture, and on the West Coast, Los Angeles, Hollywood is famed for filmmaking. On the other hand, Canada is a country in North America. Its 10 provinces and 3 territories extend from the Atlantic to Pacific and northward into the Arctic Ocean, covering 9.98 million square kilometers, making it the world's second largest country by total area. USA is a constitutional federal republic. It is composed of 3 distinct branches: the legislative, executive, and judicial, whose powers are vested by the U.S. Constitution in the Congress, the President, and the federal courts, respectively. There are hundreds of federal agencies and commissions charged with handling responsibilities as varied as managing America's space program, protecting its forests, gathering intelligence, and advancing the general welfare of the American people. For a full listing of federal agencies, departments, and commissions. Aside from that, one of the most rights of American citizens is their right to vote. Originally, under the Constitution, only white male citizens over the age of 21 were eligible to vote. This shameful injustice has been corrected and voting rights have been extended several times over the course of our history today. Today, citizens over the age of 18 cannot be denied the right to vote on their basis of race, religion, sex, disability, or sexual orientation in every state except of North Dakota. Citizens must register to vote, and laws regarding the registration process vary by state. Federal elections occur every 2 years. On the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, every member of the House of Representatives and about 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election in any given election year. A presidential election is held every 4th of the year. Federal elections are administered by state and local governments, and the specifics of how elections are conducted differ between states. The Constitution and laws of United States grant states wide latitude in how they administered elections. On the other hand, for the government style of the Canada, it is a parliamentary democracy. Its system of government holds that the law is supreme authority. The Constitution Act 1867, which forms the basis of Canada's written constitution, provides that there shall be one parliament for Canada, consisting of 3 distinct elements: the Crown, the Senate, and the House of Commons. However, as a federal state, responsibility for lawmaking in Canada is shared among 1 federal, 10 provincial, and 3 territorial governments. The power to enact laws is vested in a legislature composed of individuals selected to represent the Canadian people. Hence, it is a representative system of government. The federal legislature is bicameral. It has 2 deliberative houses or chambers, an upper house, the Senate, and a lower house, the House of Commons. The Senate is composed of individuals appointed by the Governor-General to represent the Canada's provinces and territories. Members of the Houses of Commons are elected by Canadians who are eligible to vote. The successful candidates are those who receive the highest number of votes cast among the candidates in their electoral district in this single-member, simple plurality system. Canada is also a constitutional monarchy, in that its executive authority is vested formally in the Queen through the Constitution. Every act of government is carried out in the name of the Crown, but the authority for those acts flows from the Canadian people. The executive function belongs to the Governor in Council, which is, practically speaking, the Governor General acting with and on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. Political parties play a critical role in the Canadian parliamentary system. Parties are organizations bound together by a common ideology or other ties, which seek political power in order to implement their policies. In a democratic system, the competition for power takes place in the context of an election. So let's proceed to the legal system of these two countries. So the U.S. Constitution establishes the judicial branch of federal government and specifies authority of the federal courts. Federal courts have exclusive jurisdiction only over certain types of cases, such as cases involving federal laws, controversies between states, and cases involving foreign governments. In certain of other areas federal courts, they share jurisdiction with the state courts. The structure of the state court system varies from state to state. Each state court system has its own unique features. Most states have limited jurisdictional courts presided over by a single judge who hears minor civil or criminal cases. The state also has courts of general jurisdiction presided over by a single judge. These trial courts, commonly referred to as district courts or superior courts, that hear major civil and criminal cases. Some states have specialized courts that only hear certain types of cases, such as traffic or family law cases. Every state has a superior court, commonly called as State of Supreme Court, which functions as the Court of Appeals. Many states also have intermediate courts of appeal, called Courts of Appeal, which hear appeals from the trial courts. A party to a case usually has one right of appeal. The judicial branches of the federal and state government are separate from legislative and executive branches. To ensure judicial independence, the judicial branches of the federal and state governments control the administration of the courts. Court administration includes managing court budgets, prescribing rules of trial and appellate procedure, reviewing judicial discipline matters, offering continuing educational program for judges, and studying court performance. Judges of the United States Supreme Court and district judges are appointed by the President of the United States upon approval by a majority vote of the United States Senate. The President usually appoints a member of his political party as a judge. Federal judges may only be removed from the office through an impeachment process, which charges are made by the House of Representatives and a trial is conducted by the Senate. Prosecutors in the federal system are part of the U.S. Department of Justice in the executive branch. The Attorney General of the United States, who heads the Department of Justice, is appointed by the President with Senate confirmation. The chief prosecutors in the federal court districts are called U.S. attorneys and are also appointed by the U.S. legal system uses the adversarial process. Lawyers are essential to this process. Lawyers are responsible for presenting their clients' evidence and legal arguments to the court. The highest source of law is the Canadian Constitution. The Constitution defines the other sources of law according to subject matter and jurisdiction. Section 91 of Constitution Act 1867 specifically sets out subject areas governed by federal law, while Section 92 sets out the subjects governed by provincial law. Canada's constitution provides for a division of powers between the federal and provincial governments. Each level of government has its own distinct powers, especially enumerated in Constitution Act 1867. The judiciary enforces this division through judicial review to ensure that the both federal and provincial laws comply with the separation of powers. The constitutional principle of judicial independence separates the judiciary from the other branches of government. Judges of Supreme Court of Canada. The courts of appeal and superior courts in each province are appointed by the federal government, while judges of provincial courts are appointed by provincial governments. Once appointed, however, judges can only be removed for cause and after a disciplinary proceeding before a tribunal consisting of their judges. So let's proceed to the administrative division of these two countries. So for the USA, their political units and divisions of the United States includes the 50 states, which are typically divided into counties and townships, and incorporated cities, towns, villages, and other types of municipalities. Also, and other autonomous or subordinate public authorities and institutions. So, with the exception of the original 13, each state was admitted to the Union at a specific time by an act of the U.S. Congress. The District of Columbia, it is the capital of the United States. Although the District of Columbia is not a state and does not have voting representation in Congress, DC residents can vote in presidential elections and are afforded 3 electors in the Electoral College. Native American reservations are given quasi-independent status, while every reservation is part of a state, and every resident vote as resident of the state in which they reside and do pay federal taxes. The reservations are exempt from many state and local laws. The ambiguous nature of their status has both created opportunities and challenges. Territories of the United States may be incorporated or unincorporated. Territories may also be organized or unorganized. 31 of the current 50 states were organized incorporated territories before their admission to the Union. The Federal Union, which constitutes the United States as a collective of the several states, exercises exclusive jurisdiction over the military installations and American embassies and consulates located in foreign countries and District of Columbia. So let's proceed to the administrative division of the Canada. So Canada is divided into 10 provinces and 3 territories. Each province has a unique system of local government, which may include upper tier or rural jurisdiction, such as countries, regional municipalities, regional districts, or regional country municipalities, and lower tier or urban jurisdictions such as cities, towns, villages, townships, and parishes. Cities in Quebec are further subdivided into arrondissements. Statistics Canada aggregates statistical census data into census division, which follow boundaries of one or more large local government units. Municipalities within census division may be considered as census subdivisions.
Legal system in USA. The U.S. Constitution establishes the judicial branch of the federal government and specifies the authorities of the federal courts. Federal courts have exclusive jurisdiction only over certain types of cases, such as involving federal laws, controversies between states, and cases involving foreign governments. In certain other areas, federal courts share jurisdiction with state courts. Structure of state court systems. The structure of the state court systems varies from state to state. Each state has its own unique features. Most states have limited jurisdictional courts presided over by a single judge who hears minor civil and criminal cases. The state also has courts of general jurisdictions presided by over a single judge. These trial courts, commonly referred to as district courts or superior courts, hear major civil and criminal cases. Some states have specialist courts that only hear certain types of cases, such as traffic or family law cases. Judges of the United States Supreme Court and district judges are appointed by the President of the United States upon approval by a majority vote of the United States Senate. The President usually appoints a member of his political party as a judge. Federal judges may only be removed from the office through an impeachment process in which charges are made by the House of Representatives and a trial is conducted by the Senate. Prosecutors in the federal system are part of the U.S. Department of Justice in the executive branch. The Attorney General of the United States, who heads the Department of Justice, is appointed by the President with Senate confirmation. The chief prosecutors in the federal court districts are called U.S. attorneys. The legal system uses the adversarial process. Lawyers are essential to this process and are responsible for presenting their clients' evidence and legal arguments to the court. Legal system in Canada. Canada has mixed legal system. Across all provinces and territories, public law, such as criminal law and administrative law, is based on a British common law tradition with distinct Canadian characteristics. Private law, such as property law and contract law, is also based on a common law tradition in all provinces except Quebec, where it is based on a distinct civil law tradition. The highest source of law is the Canadian Constitution. The Constitution defines the other sources of law according to the subject matter and jurisdiction. Section 91 of the Constitution Act 1867 specifically sets out subject areas governed by federal law, such as criminal law, bankruptcy law, and patent law, while Section 92 sets out the subjects governed by provincial law, such as property and civil rights, municipal law, the administration of justice, and the court system. Canada's constitution provides for a division of powers between the federal and provincial governments. Each level of government has its own distinct powers specifically enumerated in the Constitution Act 1867. The judiciary enforces this division through judicial review to ensure that both federal and provincial laws comply with the separation of powers. The constitutional principle of judicial independence separates the judiciary from the other branches of government. Judges of the Supreme Court of Canada, the Courts of Appeal, and Superior Courts in each province are appointed by the federal government, while judges of provincial courts are appointed by provincial governments. Once appointed, however, judges can only be removed for a cause and after a disciplinary proceeding before a tribunal consisting of other judges, such as panels, lawyers, and community members for provincially appointed judges.
The administrative division in USA is that the political units and division of United States include the 50 states and 4 of these being officially styled as Commonwealth, which are typically divided in counties and townships and incorporated cities, towns, villages, and other types of municipalities and other autonomous or subordinate public authorities and institutions. In USA, the Native Americans are given quasi-independent status, while every reservation is part of the state and residents vote as a resident of the state in which they reside in and do pay taxes. The reservations are exempt from many state and local laws. The federal union implements jurisdictions over the military installations and American embassies located in foreign countries. The administrative division in Canada is divided into 10 provinces and 3 territories. Each province has a unique system of local government, which may include the upper tier or rural jurisdictions, such as counties, regional municipalities, regional districts, or regional county municipalities, and lower tier or urban jurisdictions, such as cities, towns, villages, townships, and parishes. The cities in Quebec are further subdivided into arrondissements. Statistical agencies in Canada aggregates the census data into census divisions, which follow the boundaries of one or more large local government units. Municipalities within census divisions may be considered census subdivisions.
The development management in USA and Canada. In USA, development is thus indispensable in the forward defense of America's interests in a world shaped by growing economic integration and fragmentation. In USA, development is thus indispensable in the forward defense of America's interests in a world shaped by growing economic integration and fragmenting political power. By the rise of emerging powers and the persistent weakness of fragile states, by the potential of globalization and risk from transnational threats, and by the challenges of hunger, poverty, disease, and global climate change. The successful pursuit of development is essential to advancing our national security objectives, such as security, prosperity, respect for universal values, and a just and sustainable international order. Former President of USA Mr. Barack Obama created a policy about the Presidential Policy Directive. The Presidential Policy Directive seeks to forge a new and lasting bipartisan consensus on development policy within the broader context of our national security strategy. It builds on and formalizes many core tenets of the development agenda set in place by recent administrations, while embracing new priorities and approaches that respond to the challenges the country confronts. Through the Presidential Policy Directive, President Obama has made clear that sustainable development is a long-term proposition and progress depends importantly on the choices of political leaders and the quality of institutions in developing countries, where leaders govern responsibly, set in place good policies, and make investment conducive to development, sustainable outcomes can be achieved. Where those conditions are absent, it is difficult to engineer sustained progress, no matter how good our intention or the extent of our engagement. The President's approach to global development addresses the new strategic context faced by the United States through the following pillars. First pillar is about a policy focused on sustainable development outcomes that places a premium on broad-based economic growth, democratic governance, game-changing innovations, and sustainable systems for meeting basic human needs. Second pillar is about a new operational model that positions the United States to be a more effective partner and to leverage the leadership. And the last pillar is a modern architecture that elevates development and harnesses development capabilities spread across government in support of common objectives. On the development management of Canada, there is a general policy approach. Canada's six regional development agencies, or RDAs, cover all regions of the country and since 2015 are part of the portfolio of the Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Ministry. The RDAs engage with strategic partners at the regional level, includes provincial, territorial, municipal, and indigenous governments on an ongoing basis and across the federal government. The engagement of the RDAs ensures that regional perspectives are considered in national policy development. In 2018, the RDAs were designated as one of four flagship national platforms to support the delivery of Canada's Innovation and Skills Plan. Through that role, the RDAs are working to support innovation-led and inclusive growth in all regions with policies that are nationally consistent but remain regionally tailored. In parallel, they maintain their established functions in helping communities to advance and diversify their regional economies. In Canada, there are recent policy changes. The RDAs were collectively named as one of four national flagship platforms to support the delivery of Canada's Innovation and Skills Plan. Reflecting this expanding role, they have received an additional investment of 511 million Canadian dollars over 5 years. This includes the 105 million Canadian dollars for new nationally coordinated and regionally tailored support for women entrepreneurs as part of the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy. The second one is the major changes currently underway will streamline and simplify innovation programming across the RDAs to make them more client-centric and nationally consistent while remaining tailored to the specific needs of each region. Lastly, the RDAs are developing regional growth strategies for their respective regions following broad consultations with regional stakeholders, including other levels of government. The regional growth strategies aim to develop a common vision and identify areas for cooperative actions that leverage regional advantages to deliver long-term prosperity. As of September, two regions had already launched their strategies. The Atlantic Growth Strategy, launched in 2016, and the Prosperity and Growth Strategy for Northern Ontario.
Economy and social affairs. USA, despite facing challenges at the domestic level along with the rapidly transforming global landscape, the US economy is still the largest and most important in the world. The US economy features a highly developed and technologically advanced services sector, which accounts for about 80% of its output. The US economy is dominated by services-oriented companies in areas such as technology, financial services, healthcare, and retail. The US economy is currently emerging from a period of considerable turmoil. A mix of factors including low interest rates, widespread mortgage lending, excessive risk taking in the financial sector, high consumer indebtedness, and lax government regulation led to a major recession that began in 2008. The housing market and several major banks collapsed, and the US economy proceeded to contract until the third quarter of 2009. The economy has been recovering slowly yet unevenly since the depths of the recession in 2009. The economy has received further support through expansionary monetary policies. When it comes to social values, Americans are known probably their devotion to individualism. They have been trained from early in their lives to consider themselves separate individuals who are responsible for their own situations in life and their own destinies. They believe that all men and women are created equal. Canada has the seventh largest economy in the world. Most of the businesses are privately owned, although the government does play a major role in the healthcare system and operates many services, including transportation and utility companies. The Canadian economy is diverse and highly developed. It is very similar to the American economy, although smaller in size. The foundation of the Canadian economy is foreign trade, and the United States is by far the nation's largest trade partner. Foreign trade is responsible for about 45% of the nation's gross domestic product. Free trade agreements between the two nations have increased trade by eliminating tariffs. Each day, approximately $1 billion worth of goods crosses the US to Canadian border. To understand the scale of US to Canadian trade, it is important to point out that the United States sends more products to Canada than it does to all of Latin America. In the 20th century, when the United States experienced economic recession or depressions, Canada soon after suffered the similar economic problem. When it comes to social values, Canada is known for peace and safety. Canadians also believe that all men and women are created equal and are very respectful to other cultures and race. They are taught to work hard always and be compassionate to other people.
Civil Service System of USA. Civil service systems in the United States emerged around 1877 to 1883 when both New York City and Brooklyn passed the first local civil service regulations. Civil service was a part of a broader reform movement which was sweeping the country. This movement and the related civil service system which emerged from it were aimed at reducing or eliminating the system of spoils, patronage, and corruption which seemed to characterize many governments of the day, including those at the local, state, and federal levels. The civil service movement thus served to drastically improve local government operations at a time when professional management had yet to emerge. From this point of view, civil service has a positive effect. Its influence in terms of reducing political patronage in the hiring process has been commonplace. In these cases, civil service has greatly contributed to the professionalism of local workforce. Another positive benefit of civil service is that it can provide the workforce with a predictable and easy to understand set of criteria for advancement. Civil Service System of Canada. The Public Service Commission of Canada is responsible for promoting and safeguarding a merit-based, representative and non-partisan public service that serves all Canadians in collaboration with stakeholders. Canada's civil service has played an important role in building a modern society, social cohesion, and economic prosperity. This kind of progress depends on the continued work of a high-performing, adaptable civil service. The civil service itself is already facing a new challenges, but as disruptive as globalization, digitization, decreased trust in institutions, the polarization of politics, changing demographics, and ongoing austerity has been, the world is going to change a lot more.
Let's talk about the educational system in the United States and in Canada. The US system is typically divided into three levels or schools: elementary from kinder to grade 5, middle school from grades 6 to 8, and high school from grades 9 to 12. US curriculum is typically quite broad, and students are expected to study a range of subjects including English, math, science, foreign languages, history, arts, and physical education all the way to grade 12. Some districts may separate kindergarten from the rest of the elementary school. Generally, however, the three divisions are acknowledged in different configurations offered by the district. US system placed less emphasis on examinations, and students remain generalists all the way through the end of secondary school, when they graduate with high school diploma at the end of grade 12. In the final 2 years of high school, students will typically have room in their schedules to take more than the required number of courses in areas that particularly interest them. In the US, any degree granting institution is known as college. Generally speaking, a university is a bigger institution that offers more options. The United States has a great tradition of universal and effective public education. It is one of the institutions that made the country great and supported the social mobility that brought so much people to US from other parts of the world. Now, for the education across Canada, it is generally divided into four stages: preschool or early childhood education, primary or elementary education, secondary education, and post-secondary or tertiary education. This includes college and university programs and vocational or technical schooling. For the most part, children in Canada attend kindergarten for a year or two at the age of 4 or 5 by choice. School then becomes mandatory as of grade 1, which tends to be at the age of 6 years old. Depending on the province, school up to either grade 11 or 12, generally until the age of 16 years old, children have the choice whether or not to continue on to higher education or in universities or colleges. There are also other types of education in Canada. This includes vocational schools, which allows Canadian students to learn the specific trade they are interested in and gain real-life experience under a professional and qualified supervisor. There are also private schools available in Canada, which means they are also schools that are not funded by the government and often one with plenty or hefty price tags. This is the choice of the parents and students to decide whether or not this is a worthwhile investment for them to make. Lastly, the religious schools. These schools teach both the regular school curriculum as well as the religious teachings associated with the specific religion of the school. Education is one of the highest priorities for the Canadian government. Canada is a highly developed country and offers one of the highest quality of education across the globe.
Employment Index in USA. U.S. manufacturing employment plummeted by 21% from 1998 to 2007 versus a decline of 12% in Canada from 2000 to 2007. During 2000 to 2007 period, Canadian employment growth was stronger than in the United States in the following industries: construction, trade, mining, oil and gas, utilities, business services, and public administration. In the United States, employment growth from 2006 to 2007 plus 1.1% was hampered not only by losses in manufacturing but also by losses in construction and financial activities. Employment Index in Canada. Employment in Canada grew at twice the pace of that of the United States in 2000s at an annual growth rate of 2% versus 1% respectively. The Canadian economy was also stronger during this period, with annual growth in gross domestic product or GDP of 2.5 compared to 2.2% for the United States. This trend is opposite to what occurred in the 1990s, when both employment and GDP were stronger in the United States than in Canada. The year 2007 was good for the employment in Canada, up 2.3% from 2006 despite losses in the manufacturing and forestry and logging. Employment growth was mostly in full-time work in the public sector as well as in construction and mining, oil and gas.
Corruption Index of USA. Corruption index in the United States decreased to 67 points in 2020 from 69 points in 2019. The United States fell to a low of 67 out of a maximum possible score of 100, down from a high of 76 in 2015. By its nature, corruption is difficult to document, so the index relies on a variety of different sources to measure the level of perceived public sector corruption. The lower the score, the worse the corruption. Two-thirds of the 180 countries and territories included in the 2020 index scored below 50 with an average of 43. Corruption Index of Canada. Corruption Index in Canada remained unchanged at 77 points in 2020 from 77 points in 2019. In 2021, Corruption Perception Index for Canada was 74 score. Corruption Perception Index of Canada fell gradually from 90 score in 2002 to 74 score in 2021. Canada has come off badly again in Transparency International Annual Corruption Perception Index or CPI, with the country's score falling faster than any other in the 180 country rankings, which were released this week. Canada's score has dropped to its lowest level, 74 out of 100, a slide that has cost Canada 8 points over the past 5 years alone.
Now, let's see the difference between health services in the United States and in Canada. In the US, there is no universal health care. The US government does not provide health benefits to citizens or visitors. Anytime they get medical care, someone has to pay for it. Health care is very expensive. According to the US government website, if they break their leg, they can end up with a bill of $7,500, and if they need to stay in the hospital for days, it will probably cost about $30,000. Most people in the US have health insurance. Health insurance protects them from owing a lot of money to doctors or hospitals if they get sick or hurt. To get health insurance, they need to make regular payments called premiums to health insurance company, and in exchange, the company agrees to pay some or all of their medical bills. They will get most of their care from their primary care provider or PCP. After they buy health insurance, they can choose a PCP who is part of their insurance company's network. If they buy MIT health insurance plan, they will choose a PCP at MIT Medical. Their new PCP could be a nurse practitioner or a health physician. They will see their PCP when they need a physical exam or lab test, when they are sick, or if they need a care for an ongoing condition like diabetes or high blood pressure. They will usually need an appointment to get to medical care. If they want to see their PCP, they will need to call for a PCP office to make an appointment. When they call, they need to explain why they need the appointment, and if they are sick or hurt, they will get an appointment very soon. But if they need just a routine physical exam, they might have to wait for several weeks or even a month. Now, for the health services in Canada. Canada has a decentralized, universal, publicly health-funded system called Canadian Medicare. Healthcare is funded and administered primarily with the country's 13 provinces and territories. Each has its own insurance plan, and each receives cash assistance from the federal government on a per capita basis. The majority of the doctors are self-employed and not government employees. Doctors bill the government for their services since all Canadians have an entitlement to free health care. However, Canadian doctors work from themselves, coordinating their hours and offices. doctors in Canada are also personally responsible for paying for their employees and for the spaces in which they practice. Canada recognizes mental illness as a serious issue. Given the volume of citizens struggling with mental health, Canada developed a necessary appreciation for this issue by legally recognizing mental health illness as a medical condition and requiring insurance to cover psychiatric care. This coverage is accessible to nearby all Canadian citizens regardless of the medical history or income level. Although Canada's strong acknowledgement of mental health and coverage of mental illness often receive under appreciation, this country truly prioritizes mental well-being. Compared to the US system, the Canadian system has lower costs, more services, universal access to healthcare without financial barriers, and superior health status. Canadians and Germans have longer life expectancies and lower infant mortality rates than do US residents.
Local government in USA. Most states and territories in USA have at least two tiers of local government, which are counties and municipalities. Depending on the state, local governments may operate under their own charters or under the general law, or a state may have a mix of chartered and general law. Generally, in a state having both chartered and general law, the chartered local governments may have more local autonomy and a home rule. The first tier in the local government in US is the counties. Early state constitutions originally created counties to serve as the administrative arms of state government, performing state-mandated duties, including property assessment and record keeping. Historically, counties were established without the consent of the voters and possessed no charter or legislative powers. But as the population grew over time, the role of the local government strengthened and became the home rule. The second tier in the local government of USA is the municipalities. It is an urban unit of the local government and is a political subdivision of a state. The role of the municipalities in USA is to provide general local government for a specific population in a defined area. Local government in Canada. The most prominent form of local government in Canada is the municipal government. It is a local council authority which provides local services, facilities, safety, and infrastructures for communities. So there are two types of the municipalities. The first one is the regional. In some provinces, several municipalities in a particular area are also part of the upper tier in the municipal government, which provides more regional-oriented services. Depending on the province, the second tier may be called a county, or regional municipality, or regional district, or regional county municipality. The second type is the local municipalities. In Canada, the type of municipal government vary between provinces, but all of them perform the same functions. The largest municipalities are usually called cities, and their government city councils. Smaller government are usually called towns, villages, parishes, rural municipalities, townships, or hamlets. Some may also be directly designated as municipalities rather than a particular type of municipality, but this term is still considered inclusive of all local government regardless of their status.
Disaster Management USA National Response Team. Response planning and coordination is accomplished at the federal level through the U.S. National Response Team, or NRT, an interagency group co-chaired by the EPA and U.S. Coast Guard. Although the NRT does not respond directly to incidents, it is responsible for three major activities related to managing responses. First, the distributing information. Second is the planning for emergencies. And the third is the training for emergencies. 911. In the event of an emergency, the United States has one telephone number to call for medical, fire, or crime-related emergencies. Dial 911 from any telephone and you will reach an operator who will ask you questions and transfer the call to the appropriate response team. The operator will ask you a series of questions that may include the location of the emergency, the phone number you are calling from, the type of the emergency, and lastly, the details about the emergency. Canada has adopted an all-hazards approach to emergency management that addresses natural, technological, and human-induced hazards and disasters. Canada's emergency management system encompasses the integrated functions of prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. The Federal Response Plan, or FERP, has been developed to coordinate the federal response to emergencies when an integrated government of Canada response is required. The plan provides a framework for interdepartmental coordination and cooperation and identifies the role of the Federal Coordinating Officer, who oversees the coordination of the federal response efforts. All federal ministers are responsible for developing, maintaining, testing, and exercising emergency management plans to address risk in their area of responsibility. In most cases, federal departments manage emergencies with event or department-specific plans based on their existing authorities and responsibility. FERP includes the Federal Emergency Response Management System, which is a comprehensive management system used to facilitate an integrated government of Canada response to emergencies. The National Emergency Response System is a component of Canada's response management system that has been developed by FPT governments to provide a coordinated strategy for emergency response.